I came here legally, but and I believe that there should be a program here in the United States that allows all these unskilled workers to come here and work legally. And there used to be one. Back in the 50s, there was the Braceros program that allowed Mexicans to come here for a few months and work in seasonal agricultural farms and then go back to Mexico. And under that program, illegal detentions in the border dropped by 90%, which shows that if given a chance, Mexicans will come here legally. They will pay their dues. They will pay whatever they need to pay in order to come here and work legally. Being illegal here in the United States is not something people aspire to, you know.
Well, one of the most commonly heard arguments in this debate is that we wouldn't be mad if you played by the rules and if you get at the end of the line. And people on the other side of the argument say, well, there is no line and there's not really rules. Because rules that take 15 years or 12 years to get in here aren't really rules. They're just a dare to come illegally because you can't wait 12 years to go to work.
Indeed. And what are you going to do with the people who are already here? I mean, send them back to Mexico or Central America and have them wait 12 years until their time is up? No. I think there should be a process, a very reasonable process to legalize these people and give them a path towards citizenship. I mean, and that involves like paying fines and paying back taxes and overall. But I mean, just the idea that rounding up 12 million people and send them back to their countries of origin is easier or more feasible is just lunatic.
The president said when he was in the United States, but he also said recently in the national address that Mexico needs and wants these people to remain home and to help build the country. So you hear it quite often from American office holders that Mexico's playing a double game, that it wants these workers to go work in the United States because they generate large remittance income. But remittance income has also been dropping as the American economy has had its problems too. It's a real nest of knots that are not easy to untie.
I think that if you look at it from the broad perspective, Ray, when you look at the economics of all of this, it's astounding to see how all the people, both in Mexico and the US and in Canada, who fought for free trade, who fought for the signing of NAFTA, who fought for open borders, generation of trade, on the one hand, you know, create a system which allows for the movement of capital, but not of labor. I mean, basic neoclassic economic theory tells us for markets to work perfectly, you must allow factors of production to move freely. So you've got a big imbalance there. The economic opportunities continue to be here for most of the people because this is a much bigger economy than Mexico. The American economy is a 14 trillion economy. Mexico is a 1 trillion economy. The report made an important point in pointing at the demographic issue as one which is important because it is true that fertility rates in Mexico have decreased since the early 1980s, and the type of dependency ratio we're going to have in the future, that is the number of young working and therefore paying for the old and retired, is going to deteriorate within the next 20 years. We're not at the stage where Italy, Japan, Spain, other really aging societies are, but Mexico really has a small window of opportunity before it actually starts aging as well. So I think you can also understand President Calderón's, if you want, quixotic, naive wish that, of course, it would be better for most of these young, full-bodied, energetic people to be generating income in Mexico, not here.
And I think
Katie, I mean, here's the horns of the dilemma, right? The United States needs Mexicans. Mexicans need Mexicans.
Right.
How do you find your way out of this?
Well, we need comprehensive immigration reform as soon as possible. The U.S. has done everything in its power in the last decade or so to thicken the border and to constrict the traffic across the border. And now it's made it so hard that, like Maureen said, there's a huge business in trafficking people. And that's really unavoidable until you provide some legal measure for people to get here in a reasonable way and without having to wait over a decade to do it.
There was a wonderful book recently, Antonio's Gun, Delfino's Dream, about young construction workers, and followed one young fella as he makes the decision to stop working on job sites in Mexico, where the pay is low and sporadic, and do the same work in Denver and Los Angeles and Houston and make literally 20 times more money for doing the same work.
The problem is that as long as the difference of incomes between Mexico and the United States remains 1 to 7, then you're going to have pressure for people to move from Mexico to the United States. So I think it's also something that Mexican authorities have to pay attention to. I mean, how do they create the conditions to get the economy growing, to make hundreds of thousands of jobs available for these youngsters? It's not only the blame of people in Washington that are sealing the border, but also the blame of Mexican authorities. I read an article a few years ago comparing Mexican authorities to Tito back in Yugoslavia. He also had a policy of basically sending his people out because he couldn't give them jobs. So I think that the Tito problem of Mexico, it was called. And I think that Mexican authorities are also to blame because they can get their act together and the Mexican economy, with all its bottlenecks and all these high regulations and backward policies, is preventing the creation of jobs and sending his people out.
But more